Alright, cool. I'm ready. Private ownership of handguns is rooted in securitized logic to self-defense that creates more insecurity to domestic arms race, police, militarization, Spitzer 95. As nations are themselves stable in conflict, the run of the flames of insecurity, individuals are concerned by security by being attacked, generally require more and more power. This reflect the insecurity and compel them to prepare for the worst other nations may perceive the actions of offensive threat dilemma would be no threat. International authority could impose the order around the world. The international system or the desire to own guns, self-defense are discorded. The government individually to provide public order to the public, like ownership, seeming the rational desire for self-defense, the cumulative consequences likely to be detrimental to the very act of gun ownership or defense, regardless of the attack is weapon inherently offensive, and a handgun supposed to create even a great evidence to conceal the portability and skilled handguns more than 3 times likely to be used in national order to encourage ownership, self-defense, violence, and domestic arms race police. Have all several outcomes gone to the full-blown arms sheets. Police in New York have been firing too many shots, and the role of the balance of vote for the debate whose absence best breaks down securitized domestic securitization burke to the there's a crucial opening justice security that rules subjectivity and totalizing individual promises at the level we can intervene pushing beyond security tax require that we empower individuals to recognize beyond knowledge social culture economic implications discipline challenge provide them a sweet power security must also be refused, and security studies comes prior to understanding a world necessary to frame our discussions during 9 what makes security good security issues not frame calling on security the legislative security issues not making them an issue with security in the first place. Unchecked security, the Act Speech Act allows the deployment of discourse as a way to bring it under the elms of state control of security. Takes policy beyond the world's thing can be seen as extreme politicization. We understand political, then we make security issues remove on social contestation issues. Security moved by public debate and tangible action is key to Row 14. Understanding what must be linked to political pressure, property that outcome solutions, critical enforcement action, sales action, force and theory needs, need a policy make knowledge meaningful, and false promises of security propagated by gun industry, drive private ownership and politics disposability. Row 16, predominantly relatively unchecked gun culture, 7 power of the gun lobby, impure policy now matched by law and state repression which mutually feed on each other, still side degenerate into a military organization, not police, no use discourse of power to criminalize, be able to help out against your criminalizing, and it was in advanced Americans not only merely engaged in battle, they're also entertained by it. This is making foreign policy, torture, groups, and killing by drones, gun, culture, false and security, the one make sure the Americans are armed so they can protect themselves, operation by politicians, gun issue over discord, ignoring the neoliberal court state order, the Marcos, no co-founder, guns and symbolic as well as actual power, violent fantasies, have proliferated in gun culture, up against patriarchal nationalism and neoliberalism, men get guns to protect their families from those marked as criminal. Garment 14. Owning guns has produced a national identity that souls individualism, discourse of liberal American discourse of period used to carry a brutal assimilation war. The emphasis being a liberal subject serves a guiding idea for many men in the community. They're more suited to influenced by the historical appeals of individual capacity, historical appeals of colonialism, capitalism, and patriarchal national crazy individuals seem like seem the concepts that everything need guns to protect themselves, not like the Indians who were living peacefully. The gun is over the championship of the USA processing and othering settlers side reinforce white supremacy, discrimination. Those who are the minds about regulatory measures to the lab to a certain end to day as one started the way to lead to repressive effects, and gun rights feel suspicion of the collective. They atomize individuals to inflict fear and prejudice. Temperament 15. Fragmentation of society, atomistic individuals and random right for oppression. There's perhaps no individuals more extremely gun rights individuals that compulsively in the private arguments according to prejudice armed represents suspicion of the collective. Gun suffer the American community causes others to treat them with fear of the gun. Movement to see individuals against society collections respect. Thus the plan to state government of the United States to ban private ownership of handguns. Clack 8060. Zimmering recommended the federal standard mounting the private ownership of handguns. Cops started implies that the state should have autonomy as possible federal control less satisfactory. Nothing at the federal level corresponding with the street police force. And handgun bans are key. Americans see them as the quintessential self-defense weapon when you see it stand against culture violence. Folk up 9. The court's explanation about why the handgun ban constitutes an inquiry of how the law burned the rights of bear arms make me have to consider the handgun the quintessential self-defense weapon. Handguns the most popular weapon shows self-defense and mere possibility of concealed gun shield. Discourse on controversial issues in school, halting democracy, Deborah Banner 15. Democracy takes root in our schools. Guns are greatly attributed to the proliferated guns, alters way almost level necessary. Consider the impact on college campus, college classrooms, driving to the laboratory. Controversial ideas are aired. Guns are immigrated to the political and college and the text splits the gunfight between arguing students, guns, chase, and speech. And the one issue represents the mindset of guns is necessary for self-defense. People are no longer constantly reminded of guns being solving problems. Donahue 15. The government proposed a buyback program to reduce gun possession. The murder has fallen close to 1 to 400,000. The great prime minister face the rage of Australian gun issues in the country. As the cultural share of the guns are no longer available for self-defense. And the last president, it was not reminded them of guns addressing alleged grievances. Australia is a good model for the United States. Chapman and Albers 13. Australia and the United States, English-speaking democracy, multilateral immigrants consider them similar movies, video games, and drug alcohol blows up. History is armed European settlers, mystery, the native population, firemen, enthusiasts, and the gun debate is a question of culture, not empirics. K-hand 3 beliefs. Risk to drive a culture where we can exchange, give it about consequence, gun control, map perfectly on the cultural risk theory. Framing gun control turns on competing perception, risk of these correlate with constitutionality, input cultural orientation for a strong prediction, attitudes toward guns, and the other facts. And the AF is a war against propaganda. Vote AF because banning handguns is the right thing to do. Dixon 99 to allow consideration of revolting to influence judges would reflect the locus and status quo absurd consequences, or you define an abolition person speaking limited attitudes, no realistic chance at that time persuading culture to abolish the abolition movement to take heed to political realities and work incrementally to restrict especially the role that applied at the decision playing discussing handgun control, applying the more efficient handgun policy best reduce violence and respect rights framing. Government is heuristic is not abstract and providing a provides a mean for understanding the state and breaking it down to 1914. Resistance to government is found to be stronger than the government direction to transform power in our complex way of the adverse political space government. As we can find careful differentiation, the overarching demonization, and foster ethic of political engagement takes away practice ethic, and again cultivate attempts to twist power, my beliefs, activism, and gun control should be a debate that citizens engage about crafting good policies. McClure 92 fallacies are common discussion social use gun control. At the very example, the almost always partially held and divided democratic organizations chosen to disagree about in the most disagreeable manner of discourse has been plagued by bad radical debate over settled rose trail hyperbole. Discussion taken to the name calling a non sequitur. We first reform the debate. We cannot hope to reform the law in the rational way. Gun control acts like to believe that those who oppose gun control are guilty of deceptive rhetoric, but scrutiny feels this is false importance of dissecting gun control rhetoric extend beyond the gun control understand the rhetoric. The very process of important should care about advocate cannot be completely effective unless the master tool of advocacy and critique is useless without the one he sees concrete nature. Juro 15 critique and not the discourse will lead to a despair. Hope to speak to magic life on capital combines reason extent the level of demanding the possible not offering the informed without the faith concrete obstacle to the task of holding present open and unfinished. The time is going to develop political language for social responsibility has been essential and invigorating new civic imagination strategy to challenge neoliberal nightmare and individual other orientations are ineffective. Chandler 9. The radical political activism, form of social justice, care, lack of sex, radical activism is rejected in any form of social movement, the protection of policy on the living side down to the needs of people that lead to short-term policy making, government having more than happy to put global ethical freedom and responsibility. Order of responsibility, and then just remove last card.
What card was that responsibility?
The second last one.
Okay, and remove Juro 6.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, the last card. I believe it.
All right, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, so the top of the 1AC has an argument as to why we need tangible action, and the bottom of the 1AC has an argument for why culture is key and character don't matter. Can you reconcile those two points?
Sure, I think that they're very coexistent and not really contradictory.
Why?
The argument is that cultural orientations are the only way we can ever resolve the gun debate. The very top, what it says.
No, wait. Let me actually talk about the card like right underneath that says vote AF because it's the right thing to do. That seems like a
no. I disagree. I think that is an impact filter for which consequences matter, right? Just because we say consequences matter doesn't mean that all consequences.
So what source consequences don't matter?
Sure. So the Dixon evidence identifies that things as like a negative response to gun control, purely based on like, for example, emotive responses, aren't something.
So if I read terms that say that gun bans cause more murder, does that?
It depends upon the internal links, right? It's a question of the internal links.
So what internal links would be excluded?
I'm like, there's not.
I mean, I want some metric. Obviously, you're going to apply this card differently to take on my turn, so I want a metric that I can.
Right. So the argument is that responses that are not based on the policy themselves, or other things like backlash or negative responses based on emotive, reactions aren't necessarily relevant.
Sure, that's fine. Okay, the vast majority of the 1AC seems to be reasons why gun rights are bad. What cards are the actual?
I disagree. I think a very large majority of the evidence in the 1AC talks about not only the state's orientation towards policymaking, but rather the existence of the handgun, the way that we allow handguns to exist within.
Right. So where's these? Right. But I'm trying to figure out what are these solvency cards that explain why you solve that.
I mean, sure. There are a couple of different solvency cards. One is the Donahue evidence. The other one's the Giroux evidence that says that getting rid of gun control is the first step to solve this pathologization, which does say that. Card? It's underneath the plan on the advantage. And also the Australia Good.
Wait, where is this? I don't know where this Giroux card is.
Oh, no. I was talking about the Donahue card. The one,
okay, where's Giroux?
At the very top. But also, all of our evidence seems to indicate that even the existence of guns is what creates the securitized logic.
Right, but you have to win that the 1AC results in a reduction of the
I disagree with that. I think that we have other arguments about why also the state's orientation.
No, you just said most of your arguments are about how we need to decrease the amount of guns, and now you're saying it's not that?
I think these two statements are very consistent. We have arguments about securitization and the existence of guns. We also have arguments about the state's
So where's the argument that says the 1AC implementation of a handgun ban reduces the amount of guns?
Donahue.
Okay. Donahue 15, can you explain the warrant?
Sure. Donahue did an empirical analysis over countries like Australia and showed that whenever there was a handgun ban, it was able to reduce the availability and eventually cause a cultural
shock. The Donahue evidence is about Australia?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We have justified why Australia is a model for the United States.
You say that, so why are these instances, why do these specific arguments in the Chapman evidence indicate that a handgun ban would be modeled similarly? Like, why are the things?
I don't understand your argument.
Why are the things that the Chapman?
At least your phrase of modeling.
Let me finish what I'm saying then. So why do the things that the Chapman evidence reference? Why are those the good indicators of why culture is the same?
Right. So the Chapman evidence seems to indicate that our gun culture, and that's also in the Donahue evidence, is incredibly similar to that of the United States, as it had the same cultural factors, same responses from gun groups, etc. Okay. Sorry, Brian. Is it all in one doc? All right. Cool. What's the order?
One on basis.
Is there a particular order on case, or just the advantage?
Just down.
All right, cool.
My wife it's attached.
No, you're good. Wait a second, I haven't gotten it yet. I just got it.
You just got it?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. A second.
All right, good. Is everybody good? All right. All right. Interpretation needed to be made to defend unified 50-state action. The applicants defending federal government action, the violation of obviously the one season of the 50-state government should do something that standards 1 PR to be successful to defend 50 states doing something in unison, 50 different legislators, 100 different people deliberating is never going to happen. There's also no entity that can also force 50 states to do something. Allows you to get never heard of policies to get offense, which is obviously unfair. Justifies a lot of other unfair fiat things like mind censorship, i.e. the one you can say that a bunch of individuals just rise up against the state and fight back against gun culture, which is the type of fiat that the one you justifies means that they have to be defend them in the logic and not just the text of the interpretation. Second is ground politics. This is awesome on this topic because liberal policy and Republican grounded Congress. The one you specifies to states, they're going to say against state politics, but that is bad because it creates an immense amount of dissent, i.e. there are 50 different states and different amount of territories and they all have different policies, which means that you would be able to, which means that I would have to prep an insane amount of prep to have a shot at winning the round. You would also just outweigh that by your national stuff, which means that you would necessarily outweigh third real world. There's never been any instance the 50 states acting together means utopian, and there's no appellate. Real world is key to education is the most relevant for we can get from making this specific standard linked to fairness because the question whether the app can even access that debate. Last is sexuality. Dictionary.com defines the United States, the 48 counter, Minnesota, the District of Columbia, Alaska, and Hawaii, and the United States is defined by the entirety of its territories. Dictionary of Michigan Associate Terms 05. United States land, waters, and airspace of the U.S. including territories, possession, Commonwealth, other areas over which the U.S. government has jurisdiction. The 1AC only for the 50 state governments, not the District of Columbia or any of the territories, but the 1AC is not top, but you has two impacts. A, you cannot vote affirmative. Key to jurisdiction, the ballot has to endorse a better debate in the context of resolution issued by tournament rules. You don't have the topic, then you can vote for them. That's the most important voter. Based upon his accuracy comes first. The top calorie rule is superior and non-eats all of your offense. Debo 15, top calorie rule. The applicants from the resolution think about the top calorie rule just by the semantic approach. Unfair to accept the negative of any other thing that is the only mutually acceptable basis for the educational benefits from class on proposition term before and pragmatic consideration that would be better for resolution meant but sense does not mean what it would be after that to be one vote on fair acts met if any competitive activity with wins and losses requires equal option around two educational purpose activities promote educational discourse. It's a reason schools comport MI impacts that way. The ace points of the one does not take collective does not take a stance whatsoever about your role of a judge or it just you just insert towards role about but there's no actual warrant as to why there's a prefix implication to any of the 1AC arguments. For example, there isn't even a 1AC framework argument that things like consequences matter, i.e. those kinds of framing arguments are not necessarily there, which means that there's no internal implication or reason why you care about any of their impacts. I have an impact in this specific round. My fairness impact is specifically in terms of how it will affect real people. So here are my arguments. First, fairness comes first. Absent fairness, debate as an activity would cease to exist. Spice and allow, 3, creating a level playing field that force a fair chance of victory is integral to the consistent existence of debate. A game is slanted, other participants like a pack up and go home. They don't have a realistic shot of winning a rigged game. The incentive to develop new arguments be non-existent. Second, I control the internal link to value the critique in the first. If we win a fairness claim, then obviously you cannot adjudicate any of the 1AC arguments. We question whether those arguments are fair in the first place. The number 2 is accept and fairness they prerequisite to any form of discussion that turns argument impacts Galloway debate as a dialogue allows all parties to have a fair opportunity to voice subject take the logic around these topics essential point of departure point of fairness one side excludes the other hides the person with the other desire to be fair takes the part of advance for equality fairness and man to be heard back by research critical thinking unable to participate in dialogue opposition necessary because it sharpens sought to reach agreement with binders to a common cause cut at common cause skip the furthest argument use competing interpretation because reasonably no there is no unique reason why reasonably would but this is uniquely reasonable also need offensive reasons which means that you would collapse into competing interpretation anyway and you for judge intervention and judge just action on a gut check vote negative on this interpretation. The round has been huge. I've invested my time in ultra my 1AC strategy check on fairness means the substance is never fair for me period. Also it's your entire 1AC which means that it has to be rejected debater. There's no way you can change and shift in the 1 ER. That would move the entirety of the 1AC. No RBI because the chilling effect. Debaters are scared to read theory in a world of the RBI because they know that they could lose on that argument. It's also logically incoherent because you don't. If you win, then I have a bad interpretation. That's warrant voting you down. That's warrant voting me down. Time skew is negative one cannot be quantified anyway, and logical justifications come first. So your arguments have to make sense before we can justify the good. Now also perhaps skew debaters in the unfair argument know that they will be random. That they're perhaps not allowing them to go for the RBI. Certifies the advantage top of the case. Okay. Straight up, there's no role about argument that claims that the 1AC is a good thing or why the judge has to endorse their sorts of scholarship, i.e. security arguments, are just reasons by security would matter. There's also no argument that says the consequences matter in the entirety of the 1AC, which means that they don't get to access any impact or claim that the AC comes before all their other arguments. I also shouldn't be expected to respond to like specific applications and how those cards become relevant in terms of theory interpretation because obviously those are new applications in the 1R, so I get to respond to those cross-apps then as well as the warrants of the cards because the 1AC does not take a stance whether you come forth here or any sort of pre-fiat or implication or specification whatsoever. Now, let's go down the case. Starting off on the Bullock 9 card. This is the advantage. First, the card says that Americans view handguns as essential to self-defense, which does not speak to how handguns are used for militarism, as whether perceived to be fundamental to gun rights. Second, it will prove the link to our backlash arguments later. Now some case turns. First, handgun ban forces criminals to switch to deadlier weapons that substantially increases murder rates. Compound 93 handguns were removed from the hands of malfeasance with a death toll. Increase some gun misusers, which are knives, which are law rifles and shotguns. If enough misusers switch from long guns, the death toll might increase. Research by medicine, 30% of persons attempting homicide to long guns, while the other 7% switch to knives. Total homicide would increase substantially. 50% switch to long guns, the homicide rate could double. Seeking the shotgun in the inner pocket of a large scope can reasonably affect persons who execute planned robberies with substitute concealed shotguns. Cut the card at shotguns. Risk of the turn outweighs the case. The act would cause so many more deaths because of substitution that even a small increase in the amount of people using long guns and knives is worse. And skip the analytic underneath that. Status quo solves the app. Gun violence is decreasing everywhere except gun-free zones. Hawkins 15. Washington Post reported that gun crime has been declining for 20 years except for high-profile shootings in gun-free zones. In 93, there were 7 homicides by firearm for every 100,000 Americans. By 2013, that figure had fallen by half. This decline correlated with massive increase in privately owned firearms. Cut the card at firearms. That necessarily means the 1EC solves the app. That also means the app has not met their inherency burden. They have to win a reason the app should be done. But if status quo solves the 1EC, then they don't. There's no reason to vote affirmative now. Let's go down their specific cards. First on the Deborah banner, one argument about suspicion of the collective. First term banning guns means we don't trust other people will use their guns in the right ways. It's only further public suspicion that outweighs, since even if guns are bad, we should just trust each other to give them up instead of using government policy. Second term gun bans will destroy public trust, since the vast majority of Americans disapprove, prefer empirical evidence over their assertions on empirical warrants. That's Miller 15. Americans don't support a gun ban. Global reads please the vast majority of Americans all believe that handgun ownership should be limited to authorized persons. Only 20% of Americans say extreme ownership restriction. Third turn, gun promotes security. Since people know they can defend themselves, gun control limits guns to criminals. Title 13 gun control laws disarm law-abiding citizens to make them more vulnerable to criminals in England. Armed crime skyrocketing. Legal gun ownership almost bans. Cato estimates upwards of 100,000 defensive use of guns every year. Permitting law-abiding citizens from defending themselves cause far more lives than law. They say that the 1EC sovereignty means that we don't need it for self-defense. Obviously, criminals are not going to give up their guns. Let's skip down. I'll read that card later. Actually, don't worry about that. Now. Let's go to the Deborah Banner 2 card about chilling democracy. One, this argument is not unique. That does not preclude gun bans specific to classrooms, schools, and stats go on open forums like the internet. Second, all cause people use other weapons to appeal to the college authorities if they don't like each other's idea. Third, turn the very presence of guns are expressions of free speech and democracy that outweighs since it applies to more people. That's March 8, 13. The left refused to acknowledge the beauty of guns to their realities and aesthetic phenomenon. The American household gun ownership estimated at 40% of the cultural guns not only broad as possible possession. The gun always has to for independence of the democratic spirit. Now, also now, literature review proves zero solvency. Case of Mauser 07, 2004, the U.S. National Academy of Science releases evaluation, 253 journal articles, 99 book, 43 gun publications. They also identified gun control that reduced violent crime. Same conclusion reached by the CDC. That also takes out their one piece of solvency evidence just about Australia and one specific instance, but our evidence is literature review, so it's comparatively better for isolating whether argument is true. Oh, now their Australia solvency does not apply. That's Yazbek 15. One both Republicans, Democrats love gun. The Democratic Party acknowledges the right to bear arms, and the point of tension between two parties not that it constitutes reasonable regulation around this right, and not whether guns have place in society. Australia did not need to grapple with the NRA. Their pervasive influence campaign contributions to a permanent fixture. Australia's gun lobby simply does not exercise the same levels of power, and the Second Amendment is a constitutional right. Supreme Court has overturned Washington D.C. provision. There is a gun for every man, woman, and child in America. Australia skip down to the Masculine 15 Afghan. Actually, that's fine.
Alright, cool. Before we start, could you give me a speech doc that's
I'll just edit
marked and do it on your laptop and just send me a new speech doc.
So on the drop debater and the theory interpretation, that extent, like the arguments are their extent.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm setting the new.
Yep. Did you send it out?
It's attached.
Yes, I feel it.
Great, sent.
Alright. Alright, got it?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the only ways you can win this is by winning the theory argument, substitution, and the argument about how guns are good for free speech.
They're turned throughout all.
What are the other turns or offensive arguments that you have?
Yeah, okay, so other than the top level turn arguments, there's a turn on the so there's turns on Jabber Bander 1, there's also turns on
Okay, let's talk about arguments. Like, you're talking about turns. What offensive reasons other than those three that I
they each
listed
have
do you have to
independent
use?
offensive reasons, and they're listed the tag.
I feel like a lot of these are defensive and not offensive. That's
Okay,
fine.
sure.
Let's talk about the substitution evidence. Your Copal 93 evidence cites 75% of people in prisons who would say they would substitute. First question, why should this sample size determine America in general?
Because criminals are the ones who use guns.
Yes, but this was like an interview in one prison. Like, why is this
Sure,
true
my
for, like,
argument is
all
that
of
the
America?
people that they specifically talk to
Who are the people
ones-
that they specifically talk to, and why are they representative of America?
criminals.
All criminals are the same. Is that your
Not
argument?
all criminals are the same, but
Then which ones
but
do they
obviously
talk
this
to?
is like a relative question. Like if you read,
I think
one
that
out
you should have a
and-
statistical defense of your method, but that's fine.
I just
You say status quo solves the AF. How is a decrease in gun violence related to the AF's terminal impacts about securitization?
because your internal link is about decreasing access to guns.
I don't know if that's true, but also, even if that's true, why does the status quo solve the AF then? This evidence just says that gun violence is going
Means that
down,
less
not
people,
gun
are, less people
accessibility.
are using their guns in a militaristic manner.
Why is that in the internal link? So our internal link, you say, is gun availability. Why is that relevant to
I
whether or
think
not
there's-
people use it in a militaristic manner?
I think there's two parts. Gun availability is usually bad because
So no, answer this question. If my internal link is gun availability,
it's
what?
more than that is what I'm saying. It's you have to win gun availability and
Why?
the use of guns
Why?
is bad. Because that's what your cards say. Your card is not the.
Can
it's
you
not-
name one card in the 1AC that says that?
Yeah.
That they have to be used in a militaristic manner?
I mean, you say all gun use is militaristic. So if I win that the AF reduce. Sorry.
Sure.
If the status quo
Wait,
means
I
less
think
people
you
use
like
guns.
misunderstand the AF, and I think you responded to our old version of the AF.
Okay.
You say that gun promotes security because people know they can defend themselves.
Yeah.
First question, why doesn't this just bite into our argument about the logic of self-defense increasing and causing an escalation?
I answered that argument, which is that argument depends on the fact that there will be less need for self-defense because people do not have guns. But the Cates and Mauser 07 evidence indicates that people will not give up their guns anyway. So there is no actual
the Cates and Maurer evidence, all that says is that there was not a decrease in crime. Why does that speak to whether or not people will give up their guns?
because at least that indicates that people are not using.
So it doesn't say anything about whether or
Well, I
not
need to
people will
look
give
at
up their guns.
Well, I need to look at the card actually. Yeah, so it talks about how gun control did not reduce any violent crime.
So that
Right.
says nothing about whether or not
Right,
people
but it
would give up
also
their guns.
implies that less.
Final
people-
question. You say that guns would destroy public trust. Just because people don't want gun bans, why would that destroy public trust? Where's the internal link? You're just like
Because
extrapolating.
You
that.
implement a policy that.
Where does
people
your
don't
evidence say
like.
anything about public trust?
I make that extrapolation.
All right, cool. I think it's a huge extrapolation. Start prep. Order's going to be case, theory.
You send them-
Yep, sending the doc.
Wait, this has theory first, or you just?
I just put 7 ready?
And wait, where on case you started?
Two independent contestants that ends the debate. One is that the framing of the world about let's do a best breakdown as a domestic security station. That was the long run evidence which was not responded to, which means that you should use that as the impact field to all of your arguments about backlash and homicide. Don't link to this. We only have the internal link to securitization, which is our argument about how the very existence of guns, the very existence of guns lead to domestic securitization and arbitrage, which is a dropped advantage, which means that the only offense you have is a substitution argument. Now, you say no, rule about no, the world about doesn't say anything about consequences. Yes, it does say that gun availability is the key internal link, also state orientation, which is our argument about how guns ban saying would lead to an ethical shift. You say the Volkov evidence, no, Volkov evidence about militarization. The Volkov evidence says that people view handguns as the quintessential self-defense weapon, which is our argument about viewing them as self-defense is exactly what leads to this escalation of the verdict, which ultimately turns your argument about self-defense. You say substitution, no substitution, it's a troll argument. 693, when it's just out of the liability, same with person lying, and the power of the carry back and lying, very like small percentage of murder that commit longer, the more probable that someone will turn left, the one to be discharged longer, so also more difficult to see under the marker when the log of the cause of the free handguns is much more convenient. Also, you've considered the internal link evidence that says that handguns specifically in the Constitution security, which was our Burke evidence, and the one below that says that they're specifically concealable and transportable in these instances, which were conceded when you see argument, no new to an argument. You say status quo solved down to that's one. No internally about securitization, the very existence causing escalation, which means that even if people are using military foreign policy, it still causes the government to act on a military way. You say military, also this evidence about homicides in general, but there still exists homicides, which means that still turning back to the case inheritance about whether or not the plans happened in the first place, so it doesn't apply now. You say off the Deborah Banner advantage, not going to go for the Deborah Banner advantage, only going for securitization, but your defense, your terms about public support, there's no terms about this. You don't have an extrapolation about whether you should not bias extrapolation about decreasing public trust. All this evidence says that unpopular. It doesn't say anything. You say gun control. You should limit gun control. Criminals know our internal links about the existence of guns and the way that we don't trust other people. You say we should just trust other people to give up guns. No, our evidence seems to indicate that people have an affective attachment to guns because of the way that we view them in American culture. Now, quickly on the solvency, you say that guns are equal to free speech. No, our evidence seems to indicate it's foreclosed. It's the possibility of communication because people view them as the threat to society. They never speak on a controversial issue, which means that guns clearly don't outweigh the very discourse that you are damning in the first place, which means that can't totally internally to all of your other long-term solving arguments. You say decrease crime, gun buybacks conclusively solve lead, and you'll tend to fire homicides decline substantially. There's that the notion, strict policy, encourage the laws, failure to turn states environment, the bomb that supports as key benefit, and loving this national trend, we're able to use same time power to use instrumental variable in relation to being buyback prices, like the cost estimated at the very large. Your evidence about Australia, and it doesn't assume that the fact that we have similar cultures, our evidence identifies that Australia had their own version of the which solves our culture's defensive advances. It's stereotypical studies, which means even if culture is not saying we outweigh states. This is laughable that you're going for 50 states banned, the quarters of the TOC counter interpretation that the made by 50 states of the government also ban the private ownership of handguns once illegal for the federal government to make provide 5 the court rule of the Congress exceed the constitutional authority. Access to Congress regulated schools is not related to common cause. And 2 discussion about states is key to methodology. Watkins 12 focusing on state government about the national artificial and methodological advantage to live sacrifice starting the state policy solid the way the announced increasing reluctant about the state government likely to important to determining the future. You say they never implemented unison way 1 to empirically deny child birth 4 compact 7 enacted each of the 5 states to participate 38 degrees considering how compacts are included 50 states and state have acted in unison. So 2 case states have been of action property co-stated effort to cooperate conflict interstate cooperation apparently not interroundable. I've told stalls back here argument about it not being real. Well, this is empirically not interstate compacts are a thing. You said that on your ground argument, you say politics that are going when you can just read 50 states politics that stalls back also increase your ground for every advantage I have. You have a disadvantage. Also link turns all about ground. Your preemptive states doesn't make any sense because it doesn't make any sense. You should not allow new to an explanation. You say the United States is others. No, the United States refers to the states. BP3 technically the United States refers to the states themselves, not Washington DC government, which means that you don't have an offensive reason for your counter interpretation, which means that if I prevent a textual reason, I still meet the standard of what we need. The rest of your arguments are just preempts. So we have an argument about why the state government is good. Also, there's no net disadvantage. The affirmative should be able to choose either the 50 states of the federal government to solve back on the limits argument. You should be prepared. It's one of the 2 actors on this topic.
All right, 234 theory, starting on my interpretation, top down, then the counter interpretation, then case. Nothing new. Cool. Correct. Cool. All right, are we good? All right. Zero weighing done by the 1 ER on 3 means that you're automatically going to lose on. You should fault that fairness outweighs the ace according to spice and Lilo 3 amps. In the case that the fairness is not a thing, then that means that people literally leave the activities. Means that controls the internal link turns all your education offense. Because it means that if no one is the activity, there's no one to get your educational distance. Might be a bad argument, but it's a dropped one, that's for sure. You should not err his way on any of these arguments. It's very clear that the 1 ER, which is reading a bunch of cards and doing zero interaction between the nuances on theory, which is damning for you, given the consensus of competing interpretation means that you have to win net offense back to your interpretation. But the problem is that the 1 ER is way too defensive on the theory interpretation. Means that if I win a net impact back to fairness, that outweighs you conceive that fairness. Internal link turns all your education offense. Going for a couple arguments. The first is the ground argument, extend the politics argument that we don't get our politics ground because it's a liberal, and this is especially good because liberal policy and Republican Congress. You have one argument here is that I get access to state politics. Sorry, you conceded preempts this argument in the ones that even stay back. First, there's limits to set to this argument because the 1 and 2 have to research specific advantages for every single state, which is impossible to do, which means that we don't get access to our ground if the research is too hard to do anyway, which means that internal link turns your ground argument. Even if that ground is really, really good, the problem is that we don't get access to it because there are way too many discounts in the first place. You have also considered that these discounts are not good ground because you're on the state level, whereas your solvency will always be on the national level because you are effectively defending a national ban with a 50 state government policy. No new 1 AR extrapolation. Seriously, these were just blips in the 1 AR that are going to explode into 2 AR extrapolation, but fraud is definitely behind on the technical level now. The ground argument clearly wins that we win the round on the theory interpretation because they have to see that this politics round is really important for us given the fact that there's a liberal policy in a Republican Congress. That is the only internal weighing done between the fairness arguments. You also screw up on the topicality debate. Extend the 2 definitions of United States, the dictionary.com and the dictionary of military and associated terms on 5 evidence, and in conjunction prove that the United States refers to states and territories. Your BP evidence, first of all, you do zero comparison between the evidence you read. You just read the card as a 1-sentence blip and get away with it. That's obviously not the case. Our evidence is so much better. Ace of point is that it's from the military and associated terms. The way that the military conceptualizes, all of the way we figure out whether the United States is part of what the United States is through the military, because that's what they have jurisdiction over. This might be a bad wing argument, but there was no 1A argument here, which means that I win the internal link to topicality. Also, your interpretation is not competitive. You say that it includes the states, but you never mention the territories or the District of Columbia. Our evidence does that and accounts for your counter-interpretation evidence, and you lose around on that independently, which means that I won an internal link to the topicality argument, which is damning for you because you haven't seen the Nebel 15 evidence. This is the worst impact of fairness. The deviation from the topicality rule means that we literally have zero debates possible because everyone choose their own flavor of the topic and own flavor of the interpretation. Also, internal link turns all of the education often. If you are not topical, then we do not have a good discussion in the first place. It means that you lose around on that independent layer. Now, the counter-interpret. Okay. All right. The counter-interpretation is a couple different arguments. The first is the McBride 5 evidence that says it's illegal for the federal government to do this. Sorry, I didn't send you this card. You want to read it off my shoulder? Yeah, all right. This is the position you can read, FineLaw.com. Federal law regulates gun ownership. The National Firearms Act places restrictions on sale or possession of shotguns, Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, which is at least enough defense on this argument. If there are 2 different acts that have been passed that we ban the association of firearms, that also implies your McBride 5 evidence is in the context of one specific law, which means that you cannot generalize it to a ban on all handguns. At the very least, this is significant defense on the only piece of offense you have on the counter-interpretation. It just means that you should not go for this argument. It's also an impact back to education, which means that there's no debate. He says debates will just be about rollback and implementation. No, we can just say that you get durable fiat, which means that there will be no rollback arguments ever read, which means that you don't get access to this argument. Remember, it's also a question of the norm he creates, which is a bad one. The second argument of that discussion about state security methodology and good policy making only an impact to education. No fairness argument because they don't get access to any of this offense. Also discussion about the United States federal government's uniquely. If the United States federal government's in gridlock, that means that we should think about ways to reform those things. Only a discussion on the federal government does that, which is the one seat is not access. Also, your Zanotti evidence that you say that using a state as a heuristic in part is also in the context of federal government, not the state government, which means that it'd be comparatively better to use it. You should call for that card if you think that's important, but remember, it's just an impact to education. They have lost on the technical level. Theories a reason they're dropped the debater, and there's conceded reason why my impact come for the case. Alright, case. Alright. If you not understand any of the 1AR internal links, or whether you don't understand the 1AC and there's no 1AR extrapolation or explanation of how these cards specifically function, you should not vote affirmative on a securitization advantage that you don't understand the internal links for. Remember, there is one piece of solvency MC he extended the role of the ballot cards to the top. The case of the guns are inherently securitization, guns inherently feel securitization and stuff like that. The problem is there's no clear internal link here. Is it about gun access, literally people owning guns? Is it about people using those guns in militaristic manner? Obviously, if more people are parading around using guns to shoot people, that's the exact same thing as a domestic arms race, which means that if I win my internal link turns about violence, that directly turns back your securitization advantage. Also, you cannot kick out of the other parts of the case if I have case turns to them, which means that if I win that independent layer, there's no weighing done between why securitization would necessarily outweigh your militarism arguments, and then you would necessarily vote negative. So the top layer of the debate is pretty easy. The 1AC has one piece of solvency evidence that is reverse causal, i.e. they might have evidence that gun rights would lead to these sorts of impacts like securitization, but they need reverse causal evidence that proves that a 1AC handgun ban would resolve those things. They don't have that. They don't even extend the Australia framing, means that they lose around there. Go to my response to the Australia framing. Send the Yazbek 15 evidence, which is game over because Asa points that our evidence is actually in the context of gun bans. It's a specific comparison between the 1AC, how the Australia model breaks down and how the United States model breaks down. This argument is just not responding to. You cannot just extend your 1A argument. I'll show you through the argument here has a couple different internal warrants. The Asa points that we have the NRA. The Beast points that we have a constitution and a Second Amendment right, which would obviously change the way the handgun ban should be implemented because people care more about guns in a world which you have constitutional rights but to it, which means that they don't get their Australia solvency. At that point, the only risk of risk of deterrent comes from the substitution argument. Some compel 93 that the affirmative results in more results in substitution. They have conceded the argument that risk of the turn outweighs all of the 1AC. They also concede the substitution turns the securitization advantage because it means that people have more access to guns because they switch to other weapons. It means that if I win compound 93, I turn the entirety of the case. They read Dixon 93 says that it is hard to conceal. My compound 93 evidence has built-in responses where it says that long guns can be concealed and knives can also be concealed, and they still increase the amount of guns, which means that it takes out your argument. Risk of the turn outweighs the case that's dropped.
Theory. All right, is everyone ready?
The 2-0 dropped an add-on. He's considered that buyback would be able to solve for crime in the status quo VR methodology, which means even if I don't want the culture shifts argument, they're still conceded the offense. You only have substitution 2 conceded the argument. The one is concealability that says that handguns are uniquely portable and able to conceal. You should not call for evidence when the 2-R did no explanation. All he said is my evidence says well, you should not rely upon that explanation. We have specific arguments about how they not only transportation but concealability is the reason why handguns are able to solve. You've also considered the Volkov 9 evidence says that even if you win that substitution, you don't have an impact back to homicides, which means our evidence indicates that securitization comes first. The Volkov 9 says that people view handguns as quintessential self-defense weapons, which means that that is key handguns are the key internally, which solves the Berg 9 evidence, Spitzer 95 evidence at the very top of the case, which means that you've done no analysis, even if they substitute you with small sample size, and none of your evidence is particularly great on this issue, which means you should default to what the 1AC evidence also our impact on homicides outweigh, because even if relatively some people escalate to all the weapons, our evidence seems to indicate homicides in general go down, which is the conceded crime advantage. You're definitely not going to vote on a case when there's some conceded securitization argument of availability internally, which is the Australia argument. You've considered the argument that Australia had its own NRA, which means it's all back to your constitutionality and NRA arguments, which means that even if there's an escalation of crime and homicide in the short term, in the long term it goes away. Theory. I refuse to lose the quarters of the TOC on. You can't have a 50 states plan out. You conceded 2 framing issues. One is that there are only 2 actors on this topic, which is the 50 states and the federal government. Sure, this should be incredibly predictable. You can simply catapult out of the 1AC argument. Second is that you can have 50 politics grounds, which actually link turns your ground arguments because you go from having just politics ground on the federal government to 50 other politics assets, which means that it's not a ridiculous burden on the negative because the negative doesn't have to research 50 politics assets. Rather, they can choose which ones they want to read, like such as the Rainy Day Fund in California or Oklahoma politics set, which prove a multiplicity of different options link turns your argument. Your only other arguments at the national level somehow makes it better. No, you can access arguments on the national level, such as the Rainy Day Fund, which influences global escalation and the economy solves back to all your ground offense, which means that you reciprocally have just as many politics assets as I have states, which means that you can easily use that to outweigh, which I shouldn't have to do much more, which is the conceded Watkins evidence that says that uniquely on the states issue, we need to be having discussion of state methodology and gridlock, which means that we are the only ones reading evidence about why the state governments necessarily have a better conversation here, have a better conversation. Also, you shouldn't evaluate just fairness trumps all, rather side of the link and strength of the link should determine size in the back, which means that if I have enough mitigation on the ground argument, our education arguments, which were dropped into the Watkins 90 evidence, clearly outweigh your final piece of offensive piece of argument is that the topicality argument. But the problem is your only impact is textuality and being within the topic. But we have a textual basis for our interpretation, which is the 50 states, which means that we clearly meet the topic. Also, the Neal argument just about jurisdiction, but you don't have an argument. You don't have an argument about why textuality controls the internal jurisdiction, which means that we outweigh. You also do not have an offensive standard about why this is true, which means that if I have a textual basis, that way your final arguments about durable field would be able to solve. But you've considered the argument that states acting in unison in interstate complex is incredibly real and necessary in order to create certain methodological advantages in the gun control debate, which means that we solve a majority of their fairness offense, which means that our education offense, which are dropped, clearly outweigh.
Good debate.